All right, good evening. Once again, I'm back. Um, so you well know by now that when I create these videos, none of these are edited. What I come out and spit out of my mouth, when people ask me questions, how I answer them is one continuous monologue about the particular opinion that they're asking me about, and I don't edit this. I'm not a podcaster, just to let you guys know. I do this to assist my clients in real estate, those that ask me questions about shooting and reloading. And lastly, what my political opinion is on certain aspects or certain matters, particularly what's happening with, current events. In this case, Iran war. I created a series of episodes with regards to the Islam religion, and I do believe that two or three of my friends that have been following me finally asked me, Marcus, why so much not hate? Why why are you against the Iran war or something like why are you in favor or taking sides with the Iranian regime, empire, or whatever? Okay, let me answer this real quick. There is, since 1979, there has been no regime in power that has brutalized more its inhabitants than their public, than their own people, than the Iranian regime. All right? And me being retired United States Navy. Now, when I joined in 1987, uh, that was the beginning of the height of the revolution. 87, 88 was the where the Strait of Hormuz was pretty much shut down. The great Iranian embargo of oil started in 78. And when I joined, your traditional Western Pacific deployment no longer existed. It became a Persian Gulf deployment, right? And that's what I am against about. I have followed. I've been a kid in the Philippines since the 60s, and I have followed the 70s, uh, the hostage rescue fiasco. Oh, by the way, good job to our military for rescuing that second airman, the WISO, the weapons systems officer. Again, that's a different topic of conversation because I just got a question about that too. How did that happen? Blah blah blah. And no, we there was no firefight. There were no 1,500 Iranians killed. But anyway, going back to the original question, right? So there is no other individual that would more disdain than the Iranian regime than I would. But you have to understand that where am I coming from when I am providing you guys' opinions? This did not happen in 1979 and after. We did not go to war in 1979 and after. The Iranians did not disdain democracy or the West from 1979 and after. This has been ongoing since the Ottoman Empire. Now, I created a video on when generations of Iranians actually uh, went, wherein their belief of Western power started getting eroded, which was after World War II. So now people have asked me, Marcus, you forgot this and this and that. Well, you know what? If you really want to go back there, uh, the Iranians really did not dislike America. Understand, America is new in the Empire Kingdom. It started after World War II. So before World War II, who were the two preeminent world powers when it comes to colonialism? France and Great Britain. Now, let's let's rewind this thing, right? I know when I made that video, it was about 1921 or 23, then after. Let's go back, 1800s. The height of the Ottoman Empire was between 1500 till about 1800. Its decline started in the 1900s, before World War I. Now, why am I talking about the Ottoman Empire? Ottoman Empire is the now nation of Turkey, for 500 years, they ruled parts of Europe, parts of North Africa, and parts of Asia. Three parts of three continents. That's how powerful the Ottoman Empire is. Now, what is the relationship of that with Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Jordan, at that time, Palestine? Here we go. Okay. Prior to the 1900s, now we can go back to hundreds and hundreds of years, but this time let's just go back to the 1900s. The Jewish population was scattered all around the world. Now you'll be surprised that the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, was pretty amicable. They were accepting all these Jews to live in the now what we call great nation of Turkey. They had no problems. There was no sense of nationalism at that time yet, unlike now, wherein you're not like one of us, screw you, right? In the 1900s, Turkey was a mixture of every type of religion. It was like the melting pot of Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, and Zionism. And it was the early 1900s that Zionism term actually got invented or started, right? People were living together in peace. Now, the Middle East is a melting pot of not just Islam, but varieties of Islam. The Sunnis, the Shiites, the Alawites. Another one that starts with an H. Oh my God, I already forgot. Again, this is something that's on the top of my head, right? That I consistently read and I talk about. And after I've read so much about it, it just gets embedded. So I'm not editing this for any apparent reason. This is what you get. There were no Saudi Arabia. There were no Lebanon. There was no Syria. It was Mesopotamia. It was the Ottoman Empire. It was the Nile in Egypt, the Tigris River that flows through Iraq right now. That's how it was called. Ship herders were the commonality of how the Middle Eastern nations were described. The Western nations would make fun of folks in the Middle East because they were uneducated. That's how they were viewed, you know. So when France, not yet, World War I has not cropped up yet. The Ottoman Empire, prior to World War I, was being, how do you say this? Was being surrounded by powerful nations. Up in the north was Germany and Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary was one nation at that time, prior to World War I. The Ottoman Empire was south, obviously, being Turkey. Russia was already existent. There was a sense of Bolshevism at that time. But the great powers were France and Great Britain. Those were the two great powers. We all know what happened in World War I, right? Ottoman Empire decided to ally with Germany and Austria-Hungary because they were basically neighbors. Germany had a railroad that allowed itself to ship, export, and import certain goods, including oil, from the Ottoman Empire, which included the stretches of eastern Saudi Arabia, what we call Saudi Arabia now, western Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea, the North Africa coast from Egypt to Algeria. That's how big the Ottoman Empire was. All the way to the stretches of Syria to the north. If you go further east to Iran and Iraq. Okay? So they were able to facilitate Turkey and the transfer of all this oil. So they became allies. Still, we all know how World War I started. Somebody got assassinated and boom, here we go. So let's fast forward now. to what happened after World War One. Okay? Oh, by the way, the British says, let me add this tidbit of information. The British wanted the Ottomans eliminated. So they decided that if they could bomb Constantinople, at that time Constantinople was the capital, but they had to sail their navy through the Gallipoli Straits, so that they'll be able to do that and probably eliminate the Ottomans. Well, that didn't happen. A defeat by the British in Gallipoli. That's why every amphibious landing now, everybody tries to learn out of the Gallipoli campaign. That's why I think we're not going to use the Marines on any invasion of Iran. That's just me, of course. All right, let's go back to the topic. So at that time, the British got their asses kicked, but they ultimately won World War One with France against Germany and Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. By that being said, the British colonial rule started in Egypt, certain sections of North Africa, certain sections of Africa, and they decided with France to bisect certain land structures that the Ottoman Empire used to have. So the French decided they left Turkey alone, they left the Ottoman Empire alone by letting Turkey keep what we call Turkey now, right? Hold on, stand by. We're going to get there. We're going to get to the nice parts of this thing. Okay. So, that being said, Turkey, being what it is now, used to have Lebanon and Syria. Since they lost World War I, the French took all over Lebanon and Syria. Palestine at that time, which we call now Israel, ended up with the British hands. The western side of Saudi Arabia towards the Red Sea and the eastern side of Saudi Arabia towards the Strait of Hormuz. They also had portions of Iraq, the southern side of Iraq. The northern side of Iraq ended up going to the Russians. Confused yet? So now, what has all these got to do with all of the Arabs getting pissed at us? The Middle East was never called the Middle East at that time. It was the Ottoman Empire. Okay? At the end of World War I, certain sections of Saudi Arabia became legitimately becoming Saudi Arabia. Guess what? Because of the family of King Saud. That's why it became Saudi Arabia. The British eventually turned them over to the family. One family. For price of continuous shipment of oil and allowing British conglomerate corporations to drill oil so that a small revenue goes to the family of King Saud and the majority of it goes to the British. See? Now you have to understand, from the Ottoman Empire to the end of World War I, or what, 2 generations? Now comes World War II. Nationalism was at its peak. The minor tribes, the ship herders, everybody was wanting a piece of their own land. Kicked out the colonialists. Is that how it's called? The British and the French. Kicked them all out. And that's when all of this started. When they were making terms, they were making contracts and creating mandates on their own terms without even asking. The very population that they are controlling in Saudi Arabia, which we call Saudi Arabia now, in Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. Okay? So prior to World War II, Palestine, being inhabited by Palestinians, 90% of them in that land were Palestinians. The Jews were all over Eastern Europe, the majority of them were in the Ottoman Empire, which we call Turkey now, have decided that uh, the British, they needed the British to provide them what they say is biblically provided to them by a religion stating that the Holy Land of Palestine belongs to them. Well, the British conceded after so many uh, back and forth negotiations with the Jews. And at that point in time, the Palestinians were not even consulted. They decided that after World War II, that Palestine will be given to the Jews. Now, that's as far as I know on how that ended, right? The Palestinians really weren't consulted. So till after World War II, Israel got its independence, and here we go. It all started because the British just messed up its former colonies and literally didn't give any credence, any support to the folks that they colonized. You know, colonialism is a bad rap. I know, being Filipino by birth, my country was under Spanish rule for 500 years and 50 years of American rule. Both are colonial masters. And harrowing stories and experiences abound. Just let them be, I say. But that's not how it was for hundreds and thousands of years. So now the Middle East becomes a hodgepodge. It used to be like they could all live together. Then the British and the French came. They just messed it all up, all because of revenue for oil. So that was how their disdain for Western power started. How did America get into this? Well, since the 1950s, 51 and 53, right? We supported dictatorial rule in the Middle East. The United States has a pretty bad history of supporting dictatorship. That's why it's ironic because here we are, supposedly the bastion of democracy, and yet we have a tendency to support dictatorial regimes. I mean, I could start from my country of birth. They protected Marcos. They asked President Reagan at that time, what are we going to do with him now that he's back in America? He wasn't able to answer. He wasn't able to answer. You know, us Filipinos were in the streets in Manila. We toppled his ass, and guess what? His son is back. Anyway, that's a different recipe again. That's a different topic of conversation. So dictatorship is nothing new. King Saud of Saudi Arabia. Oh my gosh. One family holds the very bastion of Saudi Arabia. One family. One family ended up holding the very country of Iran. From Reza Pahlavi's grandfather in the 1920s to his father in 1952 or 53, which was actually, he was put into power led by the CIA. Again, for whatever reasons, it's going to be a lengthy topic to talk about. So, the grandfather, the father, and finally the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, all became dictators. And the whole country knows who got them there. Us! So you have two generations of Middle Eastern nations that are already pissed off at us before World War II even ended, right? The third generation was in the 50s. The fourth generation was in the Shah of Iran. The fifth generation was when he got toppled. And you wonder why 5 or more generations of Middle Eastern countries disdain Western power, not just America, but we seem to have a capability of sticking our, you know what, in some quagmire which we create on our own. The British are ecstatic because, hey, America, come on in here and take this over, buddy. And now we have Israel telling us what needs to be done. Palestine was divided into what we call now Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. So, to all of you loudmouths that has nothing going on, that has no clue on how this all started, no, it didn't start in 1979, like what your Facebook meme says, or like what your president likes to brag about. No, it didn't start in 1979. It started when the United States was becoming an industrial power in the early 1900s, till we stick our, you know what, in some place that we should not have because of oil. There's a reason why the British, England is no longer an empire. And if we keep this up, the United States as an empire, well, I like to call it that way. All empires end. And maybe this is a start. I don't know. Was it a good start for us to interject ourselves in the Iranian crisis? Who knows? Only time can tell. But there you go. This war did not start in 1979, people. You need to open a book and read, all right? So to all our men and women out there, deployed or not, especially United States Navy personnel, come on home. Deployments are long, I understand. Your loved ones are waiting. To our brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, spouses, husbands and wives, come on home. There's a reason why yours truly gets to do what he does now. Because of what you guys do. Enjoy the evening, fellas. Post.